You're watching Conscious Mind Tripping with your host, Audrey Newmont.
Did you love it? Did you love my new music? Did you see the name at the bottom of my new music? That was my daughter, Milena. She made it. Yay! I'm so excited. I finally got my own music. Wasn't it great? You can re-listen to it again afterwards if you would like. Hi. So nice to have you join me here on this Wednesday night. And I got a lot of great things. I think tonight is going to be one of those evenings where you have a lot of food for thought. That was my intention for this evening. I think as we're going into 24, there's going to be like so many really great things that are happening. And there's also going to be some of those moments of challenge. And the intention for this evening is to give you a few tools and some things to ponder for those moments that are challenging. So I would like to start with the announcements as we usually do. And the very first event coming up is going to be on Saturday. Nick is doing an intentional healing chakra making workshop. And if you've never attended one of those, it's number one, it's a lot of fun. You get to play with crystals and whatnot. And then he's also giving you a lot of really great information about the chakras and how they associate with the bodies, and importantly, what you can do to realign, to rebalance them. So that's going to be a great workshop. And then on the 16th, coming up next Tuesday, we have Dr. Dream coming, and I think this one is really important. And I have one of my clients in particular that I really wanted to have attend this. I've been talking to a lot of you about this thing called the EE system. And it is a scalar wave energy healing modality. And I've used it a few times. There's a few of those systems out here. And it is a really powerful modality for healing. Well, this guy, he had a heart attack. And hello, Tom Smart. Nice to have you join us. This guy had not a heart attack, he had a stroke. And he ended up on a walker and was really struggling physically in his body. And the woman who made the EE system, who created it, had him come and do a healing session. Well, that guy went in with his walker and came out without it. So he's going to be coming to our office and bringing an EE system with him. And then he also does energy and sound healing along with it. So I think it is going to be an amazing night. It's at 7 o'clock. And if you look at newmontcenter.net on the calendar page, you'll see all these events there. And I think that this one is really reasonably priced, and I'm pretty sure it's going to get booked. So if you're interested to come, call now and reserve your spot, because that's going to be a very good night. And then the next thing that we have is Gary is coming with his constellation healing work. That's going to be in February. That is, again, it's one of the popular groups that are workshops that we do. And Gary does constellation healing work where it is it's another powerful modality, and it goes into that ancestral trauma that we bring into these lifetimes. So he does just amazing work with that. And then we have Catherine Glass, and she's coming with some friends. They're going to be on a Friday night, March 8th, and on that Friday night, imagine having not one amazing medium, but 3 of them. It is going to be off the hook. So that one, again, you want to book your reservation now. And then on that Sunday, they're going to be doing a full day workshop where they're going to be assisting you in owning your gifts. And I'll just leave it at that. And you can look at the whole description because it's going to be a powerful day. And then we have another psychic panel that's coming up on the 18th of February, where we have Nick and Emmy, who's channeling We, and then there's Kim Falcon, and this time we have somebody new who is a return guest, Sheena Metal. So that's going to be an amazing day as well. They're going to be doing a panel from 12 to 3, And then some of them will have private sessions before, and all of them will have private sessions afterwards. So those are more of the workshops and classes that we're doing, or workshops. And then Nick just started his meditation night, meditation and channeling, that's on Monday nights. Jason with his men's empowerment group, that is on Tuesday nights. And then I am starting a new class tomorrow. So this one that I'm starting is Spiritual and Mental Alchemy. And it's going to be in person and on Zoom. And it's in a class format. So if you miss a class, you can check it out on Zoom. I'm going to have them available to rewatch. And for this class, when I'm working with my clients, a lot of times it's dealing with the day-to-day things that people are struggling with. And I'm showing them the tools, like that Fear into Power tool, the timeline, constructive communication, all these different things to help them to realign themselves and to make their life more realigned, more happy in a lot of ways, more healthy, all of those things that we're looking for. So I don't get into the information that I'm going to be sharing starting tomorrow as much. And I wanted to talk a little moment about that because I think it's super important. It's like in everything that I personally do, it's the number one thing. And I remember I was driving over here and I was remembering when I was a kid, you know, it's like I came in like we all do, full source energy, you know, and I was connected. And then like most of us, I start getting those beliefs, start getting those ideas about me and start getting disconnected. And I was thinking about it when I was a kid, and I mean a young kid, like probably 4 years old, I would go out into the woods by myself, and I think what I was doing is bringing back that connection, because for me, nature is it. Like on this past couple days ago, I went to the beach, and for anybody that looked at my Instagram, it was in all the almost 40 years that I've been going there, it was one of the most glorious days. I could walk fully into all of the caves there, and it was just amazing. And my main intention for going is to reconnect, you know, to realign, rebalance myself, because sometimes I get a little what I call crispy, and I get a little short on my temper, and it's like I need to kind of clear out and reconnect. So when I go there, I'll go into one of those caves and I'll just sit there and I will connect, and I'll just be that presence, and I'll be with the energy of the earth, and it's very insightful. I get a lot of, you know, messages, as it were, but not like my husband does. For me, it's just more of a knowing, and it's an understanding, and I just have an amazing day there. So back to, there was a period of time where I was looking for that connection, I think, by going to church. Long story short, I became disillusioned with that, and for a great period of my life, I just really wanted nothing to do with anything that looked like God, because I just didn't know. And I looked a little bit at that time into like more metaphysical things, but if it had the word God in it, I'd literally slam that book shut. So then fast forward, I had my own crisis and started going at a point to Agape Spiritual Center, and could understand at that point that God meant something different than this person that wasn't answering my prayers most of the time, and all the other things that I believed about it. So when I started going to Agape, they would say, we're all one. And I'd be like, we're all connected. And I'd be like, I'm not so sure about that. You know, you're over there, I'm over here. I don't get this connection thing at all. And it took me a long time to figure it out. So once I did figure it out, it was like a big deal. And now in my life, I'm 61. owning more and more of that connection has been the thing that leads my way. Like literally on the way over here, I prayed myself over here, and I was allowing that higher part of me to come through as my word tonight. So sometimes in session, it's not Audrey talking, it's that higher part of me. And in our lives, most of you know about that thing that I do with the car analogy, where it's the driver in the front seat. You know, the car is the body, the driver in the front seat, the kid in the back seat with the feels, and then there's the number one driver. So that night is going to be connecting more with the number one driver and really understanding what that means and how powerful we are. So I saw this quote. I don't know where I got it from, and I don't know who wrote it, because I don't think there was anything that said it, but this is the thing that we aren't taught in school. And so this is going to be a little snippet, like a little idea of some of the things that I'm going to be sharing in that class. So we all know that your heart is the most important thing, or most of us do. The heart is the most important part of you. Your brain is wildly important as well. But the heart is electromagnetic energy that's talking to everything. And so it's talking to the 50 trillion, think about that, 50 trillion intelligent cells that make up our bodies. So I saw this thing and I was like, wow, it's pretty powerful information. So it says, every single cell in your body is at 0.07 millivolts of electricity. I want you to think about your cell, and I'm going to be in that class. I have a slide where you can look into each individual cell, and you can look at, for each of us, one of those 50 trillion, that's that kind of energy. When you look into the cell, it's like its own little universe. I mean, it's incredible, the DNA, everything that you've got going on in just one of the little cells that make up our body. So I don't know, were you ever taught that in school? I wasn't. Just that little thing alone is like, it makes us miraculous. But then it gets better. And you have, in this one, they say 35 billion cells. Multiply that, and you have 2.65 or so trillion volts of electricity in your one body. You are a walking nuclear explosion. This is where the chi energy comes from. This is where Reiki healing energy comes from. It's extracted directly from the cells in your body. It's not mysticism. It's real. When you understand how to tap into the energy meridians in your body and extract the energy directly from the cells in your body and focus them, you now have healing powers. So what's actually making all of this energy? What's literally doing all of this? It's that source intelligence. So when you learn more about how you operate, who you actually are, and then you learn how to use that energy, then you use that to not only create the healing in your body, which I did by getting rid of a kidney stone, but you do it to create the experiences of your body as well, the experiences of your life. So the more that you have information, which equals power, and information about yourself, that's empowerment. So because we don't get taught this, a lot of people think they're not that special, and they don't really know how to access that. So I'll give you another example of all of this. There are machines now that are like kind of like Rife energy, like the EE system is a different kind of energy machine. And there's all these different new modalities for quantum healing that literally assist us in creating that healing within our bodies. And so when you have an awareness of the first driver and you have that understanding of how to use it, that's creating a powerful life. So starting tomorrow, that group is going to be focused on all of that. And I have a PowerPoint that makes it a little bit more interesting. And we'll be doing some exercises in there that help you tap into that part of yourself. So it's going to go for 6 weeks, starting tomorrow. And like I said, you can go to newmontcenter.net and get more information about it. Or you can call me. My information's there as well. Tom, I like seeing your name here. Thanks for joining me so far. I'm talking to you. So now let's get into the meat, the topic of the day. So I've had a lot of people come to me, and they've been to different kinds of therapy. They've gone to psychologists, psychiatrists, LMFTs, and almost always they tell me, Audrey, you're not like other people. You know, you don't do that kind of thing. And there's a part of it, that's not how I was trained. You know, I'm trained as a spiritual practitioner first through Agape Spiritual Center. And then I went to the Hypnotherapy Institute, Hypnosis Institute in Topanga over there in California, here in California. And then I studied a lot of science. I have studied people like Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Deepak Chopra, Lynn McTaggart, you know, just a plethora of people, Abraham. And these days I'm finding a lot of really valuable information in more of the channeled books like Paul Selig and Michael Racia. So when I'm working with my clients, over the years that I've been working with them, I created my own, let's just call it my own program. So in it, there is a part of it where I am teaching people about their minds. That is what I call like the controller. So if you were to have a controller of you, it's your mind. It's the thing that makes everything happen. What your thoughts are, what your beliefs are, that is a lot of what you're creating in the world. And so on top of that controller, there's 3 buttons that make everything happen. And in that first session, everybody learns about this because I like to have them be empowered. I like to have them have this information so that they are more able to use these things to move themselves forward in life. Like as a hypnotherapist, when I first started, I would have people come in and they'd be like, oh my God, you're going to have to hypnotize me today. I've had whatever going on. And I would be like, I don't want to be the person that you're relying on. I want you to rely on you and I'll help you. How's that? So when I put together my program, it was with that as the foundation and people understanding those 3 buttons. Your intention leads the way. Your attention will keep you on that path or it'll take you off on a detour. And then there is your perception, which creates your reality. So tonight's topic is going to be about understanding how important it is when you own the process of changing your mind. And I wanted to bring up an example of somebody who is a client of mine, and always these people are anonymous. And because I'm talking so good, it's like not such a bad thing. This person in particular has been so impressive. They came to me the first time, and they had a belief around themselves. They had had something happen in their life that was very traumatic, that affected them physically. And because this thing happened, it altered their body in a way. And when they finally came to me, it was years after the event, and they had been in a habit of doing whatever that was within their body. And they had a belief around who they were mentally and physically. So as we start talking in that first session, I'm realizing in the conversation, it was like, that's strange. I think this person believes that their mind is damaged. And in reality, their brain had had a moment, but not their mind, because I could tell in that session their mind was intact. I could tell from what they were saying. And so there was a belief that they had about their capability in life. So in that first session, I'm sharing this information, I'm getting information, and we're looking at all of this, and I'm looking to see what can I do to be of assistance here. And so the second session, they come in, and I'm paying attention more, and I'm getting more of the story. And there was a lot of trauma that happened in the timeline, in this person's timeline. And I'm realizing where they're at in their belief systems. And so when I pointed out to them, I think you have a belief around your mind, and in reality, your brain was affected, but I don't know that it affected your mind the way that you think it does. And it was like I could see this aha moment, this light go off. So I think it was like literally in that moment, they changed their belief on what they thought their mind was doing, what their brain was and what their mind is. And then there was also another part of it where I heard more of the story about what happened. And because it affected their bodies so physically, they couldn't do a lot. But I know a friend of theirs, and a friend told me about this experience that the person had where they, and I'm trying to say this in a way that still keeps them anonymous, they were going to do the thing that they loved, which was a very physical activity, for the first time. And it took them 20 minutes to just get started. And these people were all very patient, and they assisted the person to get it started. And it was like I could see in there the willpower. So when you're looking at all the things that you do, when a person has that kind of willpower, it was like, I'm going to do this one way or another. And then they actually keep going and keep trying and keep making it happen. That gives me a lot of information on who they are, who they can be. And so when I was able to point that out, they, I think, almost even forgot about it. They didn't realize the doctors say that you might not do whatever. And they said, I'm doing this because I love this so much. That willpower attached to that new belief, that can move mountains. So when they got those two pieces, it was like, oh man, then I saw this like movement forward. So the next time they came in, I can see my clients get out of their cars and I can see them come in. And sometimes I like to watch just to see where they're at, their energy. And then sometimes I watch them as they leave, right? So I can see how they're looking as they go. And on the third time this person was walking in differently, they were walking in a bit straighter. They came in and it's like, went to the next level. So why is this important? We all have beliefs about what we're capable of. We have beliefs around who we are. We have beliefs around so many things, and those are the things that create our life. So when this person changed their belief around all of those things, I saw them again today, and I'm telling you, now I don't see them every week. I'm seeing them every other week. And the life is getting better and better and better. And that's the intention for what I do. So when I'm working with somebody, it's super important that I am able to catch that story. So then I'm going to go to the next thing, because that's one of the good stories, right? That's one of the ones where it's like, person's making this happen. The other story, another anonymous thing. As a therapist, I work with what is presented to me, which is why a lot of times I like to work with families and I like to work with couples, because then I can see a bigger picture. Because sometimes people want to come in and they just want to be like, no, I'm all good. I just have this little thing over here, And then I don't see the big picture. Many times people come in and it's like, I'm messed up and here's the big picture. And those are the people, I'm telling you, click, 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 life gets better. But in this particular situation, I'm working with this person and there's the story. All right, we're working with it. And I'm telling you, I've been working with this person for a long time and I've been wildly impressed. Because, it's like movement forward, understanding, really gaining that awareness and changing habits. Not all the way, though. And there's always been something, it's like, they're not doing this. It's not my job to climb into their world and make them do anything. It's my job to give suggestions, to give information, to help them to understand who they are on a deeper level and to create these new habits, new beliefs. So, fast forward, something happened. And it was like, what just happened here? And for me, it was like something, it just snapped. And I'm looking at the bigger picture with this person. I'm not going to go into the details because the details don't matter. But then I found out there's a piece of information that's very important that was missing. So as a therapist, if I have a piece of the puzzle, but I don't have the whole thing, I can only work with what I'm working with. So now I have this other piece after this thing has happened. And it's like, what do you do with that? Not a lot I can do at this point, except for continue to work and to help them work through what this looks like. But why do I bring it up? When we have beliefs, and there are things that you don't want to tell, there's things that you want to hide, those things don't go away. They continue to be in action in a way that is not constructive. So for all of us, when there's something that we have done back here that we feel guilty, we feel ashamed, we feel whatever, remorseful, any of those feelings, and it's something that you don't want to talk about, almost always, some way, somehow, that's going to come back out again. And it's not going to be intentionally creative. Almost always, it'll be unconsciously destructive. So the reason that I bring it up is because when you're looking to make this year one of the best years ever, it's important that we be authentic with ourselves. And I've had plenty of moments, I've talked about it on this show, I've had plenty of moments where I did whatever back there. And sometimes, I'm telling you, I would just be massively embarrassed, remorseful, shameful, all those things, until I wasn't, until I looked it in the eye and I understood who I was then, the belief system that I had then, and understand I'm not that person anymore. I would never do that again, ever. It's not who I am, it's who I was. So whether you're just working through your things on your own or you're working through them with a therapist of some sort, in order to own the fullness of you and to be authentic, to be all of those things, we got to look at those demons, but not from reliving them, from understanding where our consciousness was then, and looking at it almost like from a third party that is compassionate, not judgmental. It's over, it's done. But if it still resides in your heart and in your mind, it's not done. So the key to all of these things as you're moving forward into this year is to take that time to literally, is there anything that I still have feelings about that happened back here? And sometimes, and this is important, because another thing that I wanted to bring up today, for many people, it's hard to be in certain emotions. You know, it's hard to be sad or angry or anxious. You know, it's hard to be there because, kind of honestly, we haven't learned how to be with those emotions. So people have a tendency to do what I call that dissociation. They don't want to be present with those emotions. Like one of my clients today, they're really good. They have that emotion. It's like, oh, well, logically, I know this is what I should be doing, so I'm going to do that. You know, reasonably, this is what I'm going to do. They go into the conscious thinking, and they don't deal with exactly what the emotion was. They want to put the emotion over here on the back burner. So when you're not being authentic and when you're not being with the emotion, you're not changing it. You're going to, in some way, shape, or form, probably recreate the thing. So when you can be authentic with yourself and you can look at those things and change your beliefs around who you are, because that's the big deal about that. When you're looking at the thing that happened back here and you believe that's who you are, there you go. But when you're looking at the thing back here and you're looking at it with compassion and you're looking at it to gain that understanding, to gain that wisdom, and you're owning all this new information, then there you are. You're in the choice point and you're creating intentionally for your future. So the big thing about tonight, I put a picture on Facebook. That was one that I made a few years ago, actually, and the belief. So it was a big word, belief. And on the inside of belief, I put the LIE in black, because if you're feeling bad in any way, shape, or form about you, the belief that you have is a lie. So you're buying a lie. So the whole point of all of this is to understand the lie and begin the process of owning a new truth. Be in that choice point, and it's like be in process to let go and establish a new habit, a new belief, a new way of being with yourself. It's a powerful thing to do. I'm looking at my notes. What time is it, Ed?
We're about halfway through the show.
I'm halfway through the show. So I'm not seeing a lot of comments for questions. So that brings me to the next segment of the show. We all have beliefs as a collective about things. So we have beliefs about who we are in our communities. We have beliefs about who we are in our countries. We have beliefs about the world. And what if many of the beliefs that we have all taken on are not true? What if we've all taken on beliefs around how everything operates that are not real? I bring this up because we're in a really interesting time right now, and it's important to own our beliefs based on what is true. And so I wanted to read something to you because I think it's really important and it's powerful. So I used to listen to this guy when I was younger. Ed and I were talking about it. And by the way, I just want to give a shout out to Ed and Conejo Valley Talk Radio that they are building here. It is fantastic, and I'm greatly appreciative of you, Ed. You're doing an amazing job. He's putting together all of this. His just hand up there waving at me. So I wanted to read this to you. It's Paul Harvey. And I used to love when he would come on. It was years and years and years ago. I would listen to talk radio a lot. And Paul Harvey was always the voice of common sense. And he was the voice of reason, logic. You know, he was a very conscious radio show host. And he was, you know, just so good. So this thing has been floating around, and I've seen it quite a few times. And every time I see it, it's like, dang, that is spot on. So I wanted to read it with you, and then I want to discuss it. So and by the way, I wanted to laugh about something here. See these glasses? So I was laughing with Ed and Becca about this. Way back when I was in 3rd grade, my mother, it was in the 70s, and my mother got me glasses kind of like this, but they were like more of the cat eye. They were not in style at all. And I was such a geek. I had buck teeth, and I was like the nerd in the class. I put on these glasses. I went to school, and they were literally like crooked on my face. And I'm sitting there in the classroom, and the whole class was like laughing at me with my little funny glasses. And I put these on, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're like those glasses. But now it's a whole different thing. I'm not that little girl that I was in 3rd grade. I was a hot mess. I was like that kid in the class that was like, So when I put them on now, it's like, it's kind of amusing for me. I just thought I would share that with you. I've come a long way, baby. So, in 1965, Paul Harvey broadcasted If I Were the Devil. And this is his part here. It's just what somebody wrote. I didn't know where this article came from. It is really amazing to realize over 47 years ago how accurately he prophesied the future spiritual condition of the United States. Many of his statements were considered ridiculously outlandish at that time in history, yet we find ourselves today. Paul Harvey's If I Were the Devil transcript. If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree, thee. So I'd set about however necessary to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old, I would teach to pray after me, O our Father, which art thou in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families that war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects but neglect to discipline emotions, Just let those run wild until before you knew it, you'd have a drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the House of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and defy science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbols of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what do you bet I could get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich? I would caution against extremes and work in patriotism and against extremes in hard work and patriotism and moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned and that swinging is more fun, that what you see on the TV is the way to be, and thus I could undress you in public and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day. So, the reason why I bring this up is because I look at the beliefs of the people that come in, especially these teenagers. And why do they have these beliefs? What are they looking at? What are they learning? What are they understanding? And I look at young adults. I look at medium adults. And funny enough, for my older clients that come in, it's a different thing. So there's been a period of time where our beliefs in who we are, a lot of times they're not gained from our parents who have a strong foundation in whatever that is. So I have people who are awesome parents. They're amazing. And their kids take on beliefs that don't match what the family system looks like. So why is all of this important? Is because we're in a choice point right now with who we are and what we believe, not only as a nation, as a country, the United States, as he said. This is something that's worldwide at this point. And we don't see a lot of what's going on in other countries. We don't see on the news all these farmers that are protesting, all of these massive events that are happening around the world. And so when we're looking at what we believe, we're getting the news from sources that don't have to tell you the truth. I know I've said this before. I'm going to say it again and again and again because it's just this important. When you're watching a lot of the mainstream kind of news, they don't have to tell you the truth. There was a Smith-Mundt that was put into effect that said the media can't lie until it was taken out of effect. And now the media can lie. So when you're watching certain things and you think that that is true, and you think that what people are saying is the conspiracy is just a bunch of hogwash, look at what's actually going on in the world. Look at literally what we're seeing. And why is this important? Go back to what I was saying with that particular client. They're not showing all the truth. So it's in effect, it's happening. So just because we don't want to look at it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And because we don't want to look at it, because it's designed to be creating fear, when we don't look at it and shine our light on it, when we allow that fear to consume us, then we're creating for what that is. So when the media is not showing what's happening at the border, that doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means that maybe you're unaware of what that looks like. When the media is not showing all these people who are dying from overdoses, that doesn't mean it's not happening. When the media is not showing what's going on in the school systems and what our children are being taught, or more importantly, what they're not being taught, when we're just allowing these things and we don't want to look at it, that loiters in you. Because there's a part of it where you do know. And there's a part of it where you do feel whatever those feelings are that come up from it, like anxiety. It's huge right now. So interesting about anxiety, is it actually happening to you right now? Probably not. Anxiety is one of those things where we're imagining a future. So if you're not aware, if you're not looking at the information, if you're not focused on a solution, if you're not focused on the truth, then that anxiety will run rampant, because that's what it's designed to do. That's what is going on right now. And why am I saying it? Why is it so important? It's important because when we are brave and we start with ourselves, and you look at your timeline and you look at what are any things that are still loitering there? Where do I still hold on to being a victim? Where do I still hold on to being a perpetrator? Where do I still hold on to those events that are still locked in my heart? Why this is important is because you have the power to let them out. You have the power to be done with it, and it is not creating in your life anymore. I'm a pure testimony to it, and so are a lot of my clients. And why is this important? When we're coming from this choice and we're free, and that's not creating within us, and we're creating in this quantum intelligence, then we're free to not only change our own individual lives, but just changing your life changes so much around you. Like when my people come in, especially when it is a family and there's somebody that is the identified patient and they're a challenge and they're having whatever. When that person changes their beliefs around themselves, and then they change their habits, and they change so much of what they're doing, they're constructively communicating, they're doing all of these things, they get to be the consciousness in their family. They get to be powerful. They get to be the change that happens. So same thing with us in the world. When we change our beliefs from a point of being educated, from a point of knowing the truth, from all of that, not only are we changing us, we are changing the world. I mentioned earlier Lynn McTaggart. She wrote a book around intention, and she creates all this great information. So she has these groups that are called the Power of 8. So 8 people come together and they recognize the truth in whatever person, in whatever situation that they are holding in prayer. So like one of our partners at our office, he holds an intention group every Thursday, and they hold people in prayer. They see them in their truth, not as their illness, not as their challenge or whatever. So when we as a collective, I'm going to back it up a little bit even further. There's an organization called heartmath.org, and in that organization you can go in there and they have prayer rooms where they're literally holding all of these areas in the world in prayer. And it is crazy interesting to look at the results that happen when they do this. You know, there's story upon story, I mean, a gazillion stories around people who are sick, and people hold them in prayer and they get better. There's miracle stories of the doctors saying, you know, that's not going to happen. They're going to die. I know people personally, the doctor said, we don't have a lot of hope for you. So what do? They change their beliefs around what they believe the doctor can do. They change their beliefs around medicine in general, and they start looking at other approaches. They start going into educating themselves because, again, information equals power, and information about ourselves is empowerment. So as an example, what I said earlier, that guy that went in with a walker and he came out without it. That's just one little story. But again, you have to know your truth. You have to check your beliefs. So we have to do that individually, and we have to do it as a collective. And that's why I will bring this up time and time again. So when you look at what Paul Harvey said in there, and you're looking at literally what's happening in our society, it didn't used to look like it does right now. I mean, again, I've been here for 61 years. Our beliefs as a collective have moved into something that has been manipulated. So in order to get out of that manipulation, we have to start working with what we can know to be true. And what I can know to be true is there's a world out there where kids regain their sense of identity, their sense of self. They own their confidence, they own their power, where parents are able to work with them to help them understand that. Because I'm telling you, kids right now, they are struggling. There's a lot of influence that they get sucked into, just gaming world in particular. When the kids are watching these violent games, that's hypnosis. They're literally taking on a belief around what killing looks like. They get sucked into an alternate world, and that is hypnosis. Another part of hypnosis is music. So when you're in the beginning of this year in 24, choices. So the invitation is your homework, because everybody loves that I give homework, I think. Your homework is look at your life objectively with no judgment. Look at it compassionately. If there are things that are going on with you, what's your belief? Literally sit down with pen and paper. I believe this about the four corners of your life. What do you believe around your health? What do you believe around your body and its ability to heal itself? What do you believe around any of the different modalities for healing? What do you believe around your success, your abundance? That's a big one for a lot of people. So when I say success, abundance, it's that thing that you do to be in the world. Like my success, I am a therapist, and I'm of service in the world. So I don't think of it as work. It's what I do, and I'm successful at it, and I create abundance with it. So if you're in a position right now where you're not feeling successful and abundant, how can you change that? What actions can you take to change that? And I want to say, I had somebody today, and I did this with this person because I saw clearly his success. Look up Ralph Waldo Emerson's definition of success. Does it resonate with you? If it doesn't, if you don't feel successful in that version, how could you? What could you change in your life to own that? How can you realign yourself to own that version of success. And so then comes the part of your joy, being happy in your life. What are your beliefs around your happiness? Sometimes when we have a tragedy happen, when we have a trauma that happens, we get kind of stuck in it. And we get stuck in the habit of, ugh. So are you stuck in a habit? Do you have a belief around what your possibilities are? Write it down. You know, when you're being authentic about these things and you can look at the illusion and you're in a choice point and you can begin the process of changing things, 90% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, it is a process. It usually doesn't change overnight. It's one step, I'm going to do this, another step, I'm going to do that. So look at your life and really get what it is that you can do. Look at the belief, own a new one, and what are the actions that you can take. Same thing with your love life. It starts with you. Are you in love with you? Do you have a belief around that you're not lovable? If that is a belief that you have, it's not true. It's just what you believed, and sometimes it's how you have acted. So what do you need to do to change that? What new actions can you take? And how do you own the love that you are and then create the love of your life or the loves of your life and those loving relationships? I'm going to give a real quick story on something before my time is up. I think it's up in a second here. My daughter, a couple of days ago, had a moment, and just really quick, the curtain rod fell and hit her right underneath her eye, and it scared her. It scared me too, and it was like a moment, and I could see that she was scared, she was trembling, and I just held her and comforted her in the moment. And she said, "Oh, I've been knowing something's going to happen with my eyes. I've always been scared about my eyes, and see what happened." And there's a part of it where it's like she could have held on to the belief, my eyes are in jeopardy. My eyes, something could happen to them. And I looked at her and I said, "So if you've been thinking there's something about your eyes and you're worried about your eyes, it just happened. It just happened. And it did scare you, and you do have a cut and a little bit of a black eye, and you're okay. You're okay." So we have to be the driver in the front seat, that adult part of us, and we have to look at the kid like I told her. So look at the kid that knew something was going to happen and was scared about it. It happened. So you let her know it's okay. It's happened now. It's done. And we're going to live the rest of our life with our eyes intact, with us being fine. That's one little example, but I'm telling you, that's what we have to do when something happens and it is traumatic. It's hard. Be the adult in the front seat and let that younger, whether it's even a weak younger version of you, know we got it. We see what happened. We're owning a new choice point. I'm driving now, and I'm driving consciously with logic, reason, deduction, willpower, and the almighty intentional choice, and move from that place. So in 24, there's your option. And before my time really runs out, I'm so excited to say next week, I have Dr. Nancy Sachs as my guest. I'm so excited for her to be here. She's my doctor, and she is a wealth of information. So on the 17th, next Wednesday, she is my guest. And then I have Michelle Guzzi coming up soon, too. So I'm very excited for those two people. So we won't have me with my little monologue for a little while here. So do those bits of homework and text me or share with me when you have your insights, your ahas. Okay? I love you all very much. Thank you so much for joining me and for watching this afterwards. I appreciate it, and feel free to share. Much love to you. Bye-bye.